Welcome to the show, everybody. Coming to you live from beautiful Fairfield County, Ohio, here on a rainy day. Guys are rained out and trying to wrap up the big rush before Christmas, finishing up projects here. Big thanks to Company Cam here in the studios. We sure appreciate them being part of this, making this happen. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel here where we're posting these podcasts now, where you can not only have the pleasure of hearing my wonderful voice, you can also look at the beautiful face of the company's and my beautiful guests. Folks, we want big thanks to LMN, promo code AMN there. Cycle CPA, the same. The Hardscape Academy, we got trainings here through the winter. Come check it out. Steel Wrist, our friends. And then our other friends that don't pay us a dime, and we only promote them because we love them. Our friends at Forward Coaching there, FRWRD, Ken and Pat, JohnPajak.com, your financial coaching guy, Lattice Diamond Blades, promo code AMN there, and Leanscaper. You're going to hear more about that. Today, we have Jadon Wise on. My guy. What's up? How are you?
Good, Caleb. How are you doing?
Buddy, we are having a good time. You're a returning guest. This might be almost your third interview with us. Does that sound right?
Something like that. Yeah.
So welcome back, man. Cool. You're getting up there and running with Zach Taylor. I think he might be our most returning guest ever. But, dude, okay, so what we're going to talk about, you attended the Dave Ramsey, I'm blanking here. What did they call it? EntreLeadership?
EntreLeadership Master Series.
I was going to say, I thought Mastermind or Masterclass or something was in there. Master Series. Okay, cool. First and foremost, remind our listeners here who you are, Arbor Care, and all this stuff. Tell us about yourself and what you do in the green industry, and then we're gonna go over some things you learned there at the Dave Ramsey thing, and hopefully he doesn't sue us for talking about it.
Yeah, no, this is good. Jadon Wise with Arbor Care Lawn and Pest Control. I'm the operations leader here, out of Central Washington State in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Had about 2.5 inches of snow last night, so it's not rainy here, but it's cold and snowy. So, yeah, we offer full service tree trimming, tree removal, and pest control, from weed control in your lawns to insects, fungus, the whole 9 yards. So our tagline is protecting your green investment. So when you have an excellent company like Almond or somebody like that coming in and building your retaining walls and putting landscaping in, you spend a lot of money on that. You want to be able to protect it from all the pests. So that's where we come. So that's a little bit about
me. That's a good tagline.
Yeah, I love it.
Heck yeah. So I'd seen some stuff on your Instagram there. And by the way, just while we're early in the show here, Instagrams, other ventures you might have going that you'd like to promote real quick.
It's like you might know me. Yeah. Instagram handle for Arbor Care is Arbor Care WA. So ARBORCAREWA is the Arbor Care. That one's not super, I'm not as active on that one. I should be. But then my personal one is just my name, Wise Jadon, Jadon. And that's my personal. And then I do coffee roasting as a hobby. So I roast coffee and I love it. And that one is Solid Grounds Eberg is the coffee handle. So this is a great time to get those stocking stuffers. Just a little plug for them, for that. So yeah.
Heck yeah. Good stuff too. I've had it. So yeah, go get you some Solid Grounds there. I love it. So I saw on your Instagram, I don't know which one, but you were posting some stuff about having attended the Dave Ramsey EntreLeadership Master Series, and some really solid stuff from there. First, how do you know of Dave Ramsey, or maybe you know him, and then what inspired you to go to this one? Tell me why.
Yeah, so I've been familiar with him. My family and I has been through financial peace. We've processed through it. As a company, we have provided a lot of material from them for our team. Went through peace for our team because we realized that they're our biggest, line item. I mean, payroll is one of the biggest line items on our profit and loss. So we want them to win with their money just as much as the business wants to win. So helping them out with that. That's kind of how I got started. And then Anthony, who's the owner here at Arbor Care, has attended Entree Master Series a couple years, and he was unable to go this year. And he was also kind of planning and thinking that I should go as being in the operations leader position. So November 11th through the 15th. So it's a 5.5 day course. So it's intense.
Yeah. Geez.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how I was introduced to it.
Heck yeah. Can we, I maybe should save this towards the end, but something we're working with is team buy-in and all that kind of stuff. And I remember when we did the Dave Ramsey thing on the personal end, is where I can say, years ago, it's kind of like when you get on fire for the Lord, you just want to tell everybody about him, and just, and not everybody wants to hear, and you're leading horses to water that don't want to drink. And we tried to do the same thing with the Ramsey thing with everybody around us, hey, this debt-free thing's smart, and like, we ought to do that and all that. Or you ought to do that, and, come to, read this book and all that stuff. And we're trying to do that with our team, and everybody thought we were crazy. And, 10 years later, we're really reaping the rewards of that. Now, financially, on the personal front, we have company debt. We don't have a problem with company debt, whatever, for financing machines and things. But again, the goal is to get out of that eventually too. But that being said, for introducing your team to that kind of stuff, and like you said, you want them to win as well. How and what are the struggles like, or maybe you're really good at it and everybody bought in, but what is it how do you introduce that to your team to get them to begin to think about being better stewards with their money that they work so hard for?
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough. And as we processed it, it's like, well, do you just say this is part of team building 101, and you're coming to it, and whether you like it or not? And we kind of went a different approach and just said, hey, we're offering this an hour earlier than normal start time. If you come in, we will pay your time. So, you're going to be on the clock. You're going to get paid to basically learn how to steward your money. And whether you take it and utilize 100% of it, awesome. If you utilize 50% of it, if you take your workbook and throw it in the trash, that's on. I mean, we're not going to be, judges of how you steward, but I would say we had over 75% buy-in and actually continual using. And granted, we only have, at any of the meetings, we only had 6 to 10 attendees. I mean, we're a smaller business, so we don't have a ton of employees.
That's great though.
But yeah, and I think that helped with the backing of having just a strong team culture environment, just really company lunches monthly, and just ways that we've already kind of built the culture. And then this was just kind of an icing on the cake scenario. And we actually do it every other week now, what we call our bi-weekly growth meetings. And so currently we're actually going through the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. It's a video series, and I'll put a shameless plug for that. That thing is that's a good series to go through. And John Maxwell will have you laugh in 1 minute, and then just deliver a really deep, hard, like, hey, you need to call you higher punch. And that's been really good as well. So,
side note, John Maxwell is from beautiful Fairfield County, Ohio.
Did not know that.
Just so you know. There you go. Lancaster, to be specific. Anyhow, went to church here local for a little bit. Yeah. Anyways, way back in the day. I didn't know him at all, but I've come to find that out. I'm like, oh, well, what do you know? Fairfield County, again, producing some of the finest human beings. Continue, Jadon.
Oh, that's awesome. So, yeah, I think starting with that backdrop of that, we were doing a growth meeting of some sort, and people were seeing the value of that. When we introduced Ramsey, it really it took off. And we kind of bathed it in this fact that, like, hey, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, we know that cost of living is high. We know that trying to buy a home is challenging. And we know that, all these things. Here's some tools that we feel like, as not only as believers, but as just good stewards, that this is a good outline to follow. I don't follow every single thing in Financial Peace. I'll be totally honest. Like, there's things that I tweak and use a little differently. and I think that's fine. I mean, I know that Dave
You're a
would say
free man, not a robot.
Yep. And I know Dave Ramsey would say I'm ishing it, Dave Ramsey ish, but hey, that is what it is.
I like that. Dave Ramsey ishing it. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm on the business end, weird. There's nothing for Dave Ramsey there, I don't suppose. So, but on the personal end, I subscribe. So, okay. Okay. So you were, knighted or anointed or whatever to go to attend this thing.
Yeah.
Were you excited to, or like kind of hesitant at first? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was very excited. I did. I was part of the deal was I was required to chip in a portion of the registration fee, so I had some skin in the game, which was good. There was a level of like I've never been to something this scale, and like, oh boy, what are they gonna ask me to do, but like, you know how it is. You just like, yeah, what's going to come out of this? But I can say it was in the business side, definitely life changing. But even in personal, I mean, I just look at various relationships that I have in my life that I could easily apply any of these topics that they went through more than just business. 100%. So yeah, I'm very excited to go. Plus, I'd never been to Nashville, so it was a wonderful excuse to go visit Nashville.
Yeah, what'd you think of Nashville?
It was more of the deep South than I thought. For some reason, I think Tennessee and I think the Midwest. But
Okay.
I mean, I was originally born and raised in Kansas, so I'm a Midwest boy at heart, and so I kind of know what Midwest is like. But man, you get down there and everything from food to culture to driving to everything is different than the Pacific Northwest, and it was good.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool.
We would go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that city's incredible. They're building like crazy still, and it's the what's somebody called? It's turning into the Vegas of the Midwest, or well, somebody said the Midwest, but it's at night it's a wild town, but it is a beautiful place, and Tennessee, of course, is gorgeous. So shout out to all the Vols out there. As I think Ramsey would say, go Vols. So as if I knew something about sports, which I don't. Continue, Jade. I'll interrupt the whole daggone show. You know how I go.
Yeah. No, it was great. I flew in, and then my wife actually flew in a couple days later, and we was able to spend some time, just her and I, and our youngest, which is she'll be 2 in January. So a little bit of alone time and quiet time to be able to process everything that I was learning about and planning for, and so it was really good to just step away after a busy season. A lot of challenges this year, and so it was just very refreshing to catch up.
Cool. And so then, where was this hosted at Ramsey's facility down there? Or?
Yep. And so they've built. If you drove by, they're on what is that, I-65, I believe. Their main headquarters, and then up on the hill is the event center, and it's a beautiful facility. Works very well for them, and so yeah, it was hosted there on site, and then they provided food for all the days. I mean, they spoiled you. It was as I've learned with Dave, he doesn't do anything half-hearted. I mean, it was all out, and it was fun.
Yeah. So I guess however you want to describe the event, what was the purpose of the event? And then I guess if you want to get into takeaways or just anything of that.
Yeah. I would say there was very little nuts and bolts of owning and operating a business from a nuts and bolts standpoint, as far as like profit loss budget, like all the nitty gritty stuff. I would say it was very, very culture based, and how you lead your team culturally. So all Ramsey staff is who did the speaking, so they didn't have any John Maxwell's or Patrick Lencioni's or anybody like that coming in to speak. So it was all Ramsey staff, board members, leaders, whatever. Probably maybe what I'll do is just go through the outline of the days and then kind of some highlights, and you can probe into any of those. So
heck yeah.
Monday, Dave started out with, it was called the EntreLeadership system, and the tagline was, it all started on a card table. And Dave just kind of really went into depth his journey and how he's where he is. It was very good and enlightening. I kind of heard bits and pieces, but was really good. Talked about your stage of business. So if you are, I was required to take an assessment before I came of where Arbor Care landed in stage of business. So there was the treadmill operator, which is kind of the one-man show. He does everything, like, just on the treadmill going. And then second stage is the pathfinder, and he is kind of getting direction, getting momentum. And then there's the trailblazer is the third one, peak performer is the fourth one, and legacy builder is the fifth one. And he had inside of each one of those, he had key problems. Arbor Care had identified as a peak performer. So our key problem was our business had become too comfortable. So we'd gotten to a point, and then we just plateaued. So some key focuses in that one was reconnecting with our mission vision, being a proactive disruptor in our industry, and inspiring our team, and relentless culture of just getting better. And so that was really good stuff. Then there was one on time management. Dave Ramsey led that one as well. Super good. And then Ken Coleman, which is one of the personalities there on Ramsey, had core values, which was really fun because we had just wrapped up all of our mission, vision, and core values probably a couple months or several months before I had attended. So I'm still fresh off of that. And then we had a interviewing, hiring talk kind of all together, kind of their process and procedures on how they interview and hire. And then the disc profiles, which was really fascinating and fun. And we've actually started implementing all that here at Arbor Care. So taking the personality the personality test, or doesn't really define who you are, or I mean, it doesn't say like this is what you should be, but it just helps unlock communication challenges. So high D is a big high driver, production oriented. High I is relational person, the bubbly, the party person. And then you have the high S, which is like there's the strategic, kind of stabilizer. And then the high C is the cautious overthinker. So that was good.
Yeah, again, that's called a DISC profile, DISC. And one of the sales classes I took last summer was talking about how important it is to identify your clients as fast as you can, where they fall on the DISC profile, and that'll help you sell to them and understand their personality and how to essentially communicate with them. And the altruistic thing, solve their problem better, right? Communicate with them in a way that they understand, right? And that's your job as a salesperson, as a coach, as a guide.
Yeah. Wow. That's
yeah, that was really impactful to me to try to understand that more. Like right now we're on a job working with an engineer, and he's a high D for sure. And so it's like, this guy wants more detail than my normal clients. And I realize I've dropped the ball there of like, he wants the specs on the pumps we're putting in, just 'cause he's a dork. He just wants to know that stuff. And I say that with love. I mean, I'm a dork too. And like, I love the details of that. I've read the manual on our freaking excavator we just got. Like, I'm a dork, and I like to know that stuff. And that's what I do for fun, folks. I don't let my days get polluted with that, because that takes away from what I really need to be doing. But I'm just saying, as an enjoyment thing, I like to like know the nuance of it. And also too, we then can train staff better that way too. And to that effect, that's something also we need to have our team doing themselves. They need, like, I take that back. I read through the initial like break-in manual and all that stuff with the excavator. I'm going to have the guys actually, I'm going to delegate it to one of the guys, our new we bought a 2-ton excavator. And I'm going to just have one of the guys like, hey, learn how the tracks, spread, and just learn everything about this thing. And then we're going to read the manual thing, and then we're going to have a training day on this new micro mini excavator. So I digress. Continue, Jadon.
No, that's great. So that was Monday. Tuesday was
This all was in Monday. I thought this was the overview of the 5 days.
Oh no. We're just,
Lord.
That's why I said that there was times that I came back to the hotel or the Airbnb and I just kind of flopped on the couch and was like, I am exhausted.
Oh my gosh. So do you have any key takeaways from? I mean, you mentioned some of them, but let's drill down on that just a little bit. Key takeaways from the Monday, because the reality is you can't absorb all of this stuff, but kind of key things of like Monday, we're like, oh wow, this is what we need to work on at Arbor Care, or we're really doing this well at Arbor Care. When you kind of touched on that, but maybe elaborate a little more.
Yeah. I would say probably the disc profiles was huge because when I understand, I'm a high D, high I, so I'm a very relational and a hard charging pitcher. So when I push someone out of their comfort zone that is a cautious high C, and they don't feel adequately trained to do said job, I can cause them to lock up and then cause company damage and cause them to have some damage, loss of efficiency, whatever it might be. And I just realized like I need to understand and walk with them on who they are, and really get a good feeling on that. That one, and then just that unpacking our assessment of being kind of plateaued where we're at. And one comment Dave made was like, on you guys that are peak performers, you have lost the grit compound in the polishing journey. So like you're trying to polish your company and polish your team, but you've removed the grit compound from it, and you need to be that grit. You need to be that disruptor, like that challenge, and that like moving forward. Like if you didn't have the grit and the polishing compound, it's not really going to work out. So those were probably the two big takeaways from Monday. So.
Daggone, man. Yeah, that's heavy stuff. Yeah, you just come back brain fried at the and again, the cheap plug here for LMN Masterminds, promo code ALMON for a discount that you don't deserve for so much value. That in 2 days it fries your brain. So yeah, dude, that's intense. Okay, that's all Monday. Good Lord. Okay.
Yep.
Continue.
All right. Tuesday was communication, how to consistently connect with your team, and Dave unpacked, and this is where we got our weekly growth meeting, or our bi-weekly growth meetings. Every Monday morning, their entire team of, I think it's at about 1,000 now, will meet every Monday morning to do shout outs, to do updates. I mean, they're very clear with their team. And side note, while I was there, every single Ramsey team member that I met and introduced, I tried to find one of them that would say, I'm like, hey, what's it like working at Ramsey Solutions, or Dave, what's it like working for Dave Ramsey? And I was wanting to find somebody to be like, whatever.
It's all a charade. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of them was just saying like, hey, they keep us in the loop and they're very informative. And a couple of them said, hey, over COVID, they were very clear with what was going on and what was, and they experienced some fallout over some decisions they made. And so it was just really fun to hear that communication piece. Then they went to compensation, your biggest expense and your biggest investment piece, which is your team, your employees. That one was good. Unity and recognition, how to build culture and celebrate wins. And then probably this next one was probably my favorite topic of the entire week, was uncomfortable conversations, from first contact to termination. And then the last one was delegation. But that uncomfortable conversations, a quote that he said, that hurt may hurt, but it must include hope. And that was just like, I kind of sat back. I was like, wow. When you're talking to a team member that's struggling, or you're just, there's a disappointment in, you may hurt them, and that's okay. But even in a full-on termination situation, they must leave that room with some sort of hope. And that was really good for me to hear. And he also identified that hurt relates to behavior and harm relates to identity. And you never want to harm someone or, go after their identity. You want to go after their behavior, but you never want to, like, you're just a terrible person type of thing. And so really a lot of good stuff. Talked about how you can address the urgency of the matter by, portraying this as a table or a picnic table type scenario where you and this team member sitting on one side and the rest of your team is on the other side. And you're like, hey, how can we walk together to the other side of the table? And talked about, urgency stances, like, hey, and there might be times through this conversation and this journey that I quote, stand up, and so when it gets to this point, that means it's becoming urgent. When I went to the other side of the table, quote, that's a dire situation, type of thing. So, yeah, that one was
and that quote again was hurt may hurt. What was that again?
Hurt may hurt, but it must include hope.
But it must include hope. Yeah. Okay. Very, very interesting. Yeah. So we got to leave on a positive note, long story short.
Yeah. Right. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, they gave us a short day, but or at least by appearances, it looked like it was going to be short, but not so much. I should have known better. First one was strategic planning, creating a desired future and a plan to get there. Alignment and accountability, how to get and keep your team aligned. And that was by the same guy that did the uncomfortable conversation. So that was kind of a good hearing his side from both of them. And then brand messaging, a simple way to communicate to your customers for deep connections. And he talked about how as humans we connect by stories and by storytelling. And so kind of like taglines and different things like that you can have that will speak to their needs, not necessarily what we think they want, but yeah. So
takeaways there.
Yeah,
on that day.
I would say probably the alignment and accountability one was really good. He had three areas of accountability that he was keying in on was agreement, buy-in, and commitment. And so at the end, there was kind of a time to like, hey, which one of those areas do you as a individual, as a leader, and you as a company need to work a little more on? And I would say our buy-in / commitment. I feel like we have a lot of our team is bought into our culture and our goals, but the commitment to really step into the next level of commitment. I think just working through that and how that looks, how we walk together, clarifying our KRA, so our key results areas. That's a huge takeaway that I'm actually working on. So I have jumping to the end, but I have a 3-step action plan that I walked away with from this event was getting the entire team have taken the disc profiles and processed through with them. And then after that, based on their disc profile, but also their role in the company, have written out a KRA, so a key results area, what your job description is and what it looks like to win if you're a team member here at Arbor Care. So what are some incentives packages that we have? What are some expectations that we have for weekly profit, monthly profit, quarterly, whatever that looks like? And then weekly accountability. So we had signed up for, it's called EntreLeadership Elite. It's a program. And every Friday there's a report that goes out to the entire team that they can. It's pretty simple. It's a 4 or 5 faced rating. So from a frowny face all the way to a smiley face on how your week has went. And so at a glance, I can look at the entire team and say, okay, morale is really good this week, or hey, we had a really hard week and morale has been down. And then or if I see one team member that's the red and really having a rough week, I can drill into that team member and be like, oh wow, their grandma just got diagnosed with cancer this week. I didn't realize that. That's affected. Oh, and their production was down this week. That's affected that. So just understand how my team is feeling. It greatly affects their production. And Dave talked about that when they first rolled that out. He had a team member that their favorite little indoor Chihuahua, poodle, whatever dog died, and they put that on their weekly report. And Dave's like, I could care less about dogs and their little pet frou-frou or whatever. Like, you just need to do your job. But he realized whenever he went and spoke, like, hey, I seen that your dog died. I'm sorry. If there's anything, just let you know I'm thinking about you, whatever. It's like just the next week, totally different. And so it's kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around too, because I'm a high D. It's like, just go get the work done. But I think it's really powerful when, as leaders, we can show empathy toward our team. So that was day 3.
Yeah, man, so much. And yeah, the empathy is a big deal, and just trying to, even if you don't care about little dog Barfy or whatever, like knowing, when people know that you care just about their state of mind or being, that you don't have to care about the dumb dog, but just knowing that you care that they're down or even happy, like that's huge. And you think about people that are high EQ and do that for you, high emotional quotient, like you have a better interaction with those folks. And so, yeah, important leadership things, because it's leadership. That's what all it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's John Maxwell challenges that, there's that tagline that goes out that says servant leadership. And John Maxwell challenges that, says that it shouldn't really be servant leadership. It should just be leadership, because a true leader is going to serve the people around him. So that's a good reminder. So Thursday was another full day, starting out with Dr. John Deloney. He's a very well-known brain guy there at an anxiety doctor there at Ramsey. He talked about wellness, how to create a sustainable personal and professional life. And he has a fairly new book out called Building a Non-Anxious Life. And I just got done reading his previous book to that one, which is Own Your Past, Change Your Future. And he has been very instrumental in my life and dealing with the anxiety of, like, as I'm leading a team, as I'm leading a business, I'm leading a family, whatever it might be. He went through just a lot of good points in there. It was my favorite, but I'm not really even sure how to unpack it. He talked about having close connection with people of your age group, and how we as humans, especially post COVID, but just relationship has really fell off the popularity wagon, so to speak. He talked about getting off social media for 8 weeks and various things to choosing freedom and choosing health and healing. It was really good. And he's got a dynamic way of just speaking. He's very engaging. So that was first one. Then leadership, the blueprint for winning at leading, the principles. And then the next one was the principles of the roundtable, how to build a leadership team. And then financial piece for business. You can't run a business if you're broke.
Yeah.
That one was good. Here at Arbor Care, we wouldn't totally fit the Dave Ramsey way either, but it was still good to just unpack the intentional.
Well, just because you have it, let me be clear on something here and interrupt you, Jadon.
Yeah.
Just because you have debt doesn't mean you're broke. Like
Correct.
I will Dave Ramsey-ish that all day. Come at me, Dave. But like just because you have debt doesn't mean you're broke.
Yep.
That does affect your net worth and DE and all that stuff. Sure, but it doesn't mean you're broke. Continue. So there's no. So I don't want like any shame in that because we don't follow the Ramseyism way or whatever. Like I
Yep.
don't care, but
Yep.
it's not the wrong. And by the way, all things said, Ramseyism is not the wrong way either. That's it is, I would probably argue, the most right way to run anything financially. I've got to leapfrog ahead of fast a bit, so I'm financing stuff to make it happen. Anyhow, I digress.
Yeah.
Must
And
have must have struck a chord with me, and anyways, whatever.
yeah, I think too on that is just when you're being intentional, whether you finance something or not, if you can be intentional, if you're just kind of, if you hear half the callers that call in, they've just kind of ho hummed it through life, and
Oh yeah. Oh, I've been on that end of it too,
I
no
have,
doubt.
yeah. Probably out of that day, principles of the round table, building an effective leadership team. And we have a really good one here at Arbor Care, but just how to step in a little bit further in our leadership meetings and drill down to some hard conversations as leaders that we need to have back and forth each other without the threat of you're attacking my idea or you're attacking my realm of the company and you're degrading me. No, it's accountability. It's effective communication. Requiring radically honest and transparent communication. And I think that's something that I have struggled at in the leadership side of things. So I would say though, on that day, the John Deloney talked on just wellness. You need to be well as a leader before you can effectively lead your team, however that looks. So that was that day. And then the final day was only a couple sessions. We had a breakout in the morning where we broke out among industry classes and where we were at in the assessment. So I was able to meet with several people who were also peak performers and in the quote construction realm. And we were able to pick brains and share challenges and wins and accountability and exchange a lot of phone numbers and contacts through the week that I still connected with to some degree, even here a month later. So let's see, then last two on Friday was decision making from passive to proactive. And then I guess that was it. And then they had us write down our custom action plan and have some accountability out of that. So I did not mention somewhere in the talk that they talked about the momentum theorem that I don't know if Dave coined that or if he adopted it and tweaked it, but it's basically I guess it's behind me. It's the theory of focused intensity over time multiplied by God equals unstoppable momentum. And that was really good. In the upcoming season that we're going to have here at Arbor Care, it's going to be pretty intense and pretty big. But just looking at the bigger picture over time, and as a believer, bathed in God's blessing, the momentum that you can get out of that is like it could be unstoppable. So that was the week. I'm sure there's so much.
For the folks that, again, if you go to our YouTube channel on the podcast section, you'll see this posted up on the podcast thing. You'll see the formula, I suppose, up on the wall behind Jadon here, and it kind of harkens to the harder I work, the luckier I get kind of mentality, and the also the more you tithe, the better things just seem to happen to you. The more you give, the better things just seem to happen when you give with intention and things like that. I want to go back a minute here if and this I'm going to come back to this other question, my Portland question, but decision making. You mentioned passive versus active, is that right? Or what was your takeaways from that?
Yeah, from passive to proactive.
Proactive, yeah.
Yeah. And just a couple takeaways out of that was indecision is caused by one thing most of the time, and that's fear. That was just a good reminder that when I am indecisive, a lot of times it's because I have some sort of a fear of something. Walking through the worst case scenarios can a lot of times eliminate that fear. So if you go ahead and address the elephant in the room and walk through, like, what is, so case in point, Arbor Care is planning to expand into 2 to 3 new counties in 2025. Out here on the West Coast, it's a little different than beautiful Fairfield County, Ohio, where you can just hop across county lines in a matter of minutes almost. Here we're divided by mountain ranges and rivers, and so it takes an hour plus sometimes to get to another county. So it's going to be a big step for us. We're kind of modeling it a little bit like a franchise potential, just to see how things can go. But being able to address what are some worst case scenarios that might come out of this, and like, okay, we've walked through. We're not God. We can't predetermine what exactly is going to happen. But if we can say, hey, if this happens, these sequences may happen. And so that's really been it's eliminated a lot of the fear in moving into a new area. The other one was ask your spouse about all major decisions. That one was pretty. Dave talked a lot about, even in the interviewing process, when he would be like, oh, this person's a dead ringer, I'm gonna hire him, and he would go to his wife and she would sit down with him, or they'd go out to a meal together or something, and she's like, I don't have a good feeling about that person or this decision. And Dave's like, hey, 90% of the time when I bull the way through and go ahead and do it, it doesn't work out. Said, my wife has this sense, even though she's not directly involved in the company, that I've learned to listen.
A woman's intuition, man, is really something.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, that fear mentality, and it's very fatalistic to a company especially whenever leaders are driven by like that fear related, being proactive on dealing with it.
Information, right? If you have all the information that you need in front of you, then a decision should become easier, right? And like exactly it. So the unknown is what makes it sketchy. I want to ask you a very Portlandish or Seattle like question here, but for each day or the week in total, how did this event make you feel? What were your emotions going through the week?
Oh yeah. Oh man. Get my yoga mat out and everything here. Right mindset. I would say, lots of varied ones. Probably energized and ready to really go after it, but also tied with I would say a level of fear, or a level of even though John Deloney walked through this anxiety and dealing with anxiety, was a level of, well, here's all my failures that I've done in the past. I don't know if I can lead to where I need to lead in the future. I don't know if I can get there because, man, I've really screwed the pooch in XYZ back here. I don't think I can step, even though I've been out of that mindset space for years. It's just interesting how, when growth happens, a lot of times that fear of the past failures can creep in. I'm thankful as a believer that I can overcome that in the way of through Jesus. But it was alarming or eye-opening to me, I guess, that those feelings were still there, and I needed to process through those. As an effective leader, if I'm still tied up with issues that I've processed through and failed at, or failed at and then processed through. If I'm still emotionally tied up with that and not dealt with that, I'm not going to be effective leader, whether it's leading, team members or connecting with customers, clients, vendors, whatever. People can read into that whenever you're really tied up and you're really distraught, I guess. And just, there's one thing to have a bad day, but it's a different thing to just kind of be in this slump, or so to speak. Yeah.
Awesome. Then all that being said, and folks, try to use promo code Almond if you buy tickets to this thing. But obviously, we have no affiliation with the Ramsey thing here. Probably should make this an intro. We have no affiliation with Ramsey, and actually, Ramsey would probably try to distance himself from the Kid Contractor podcast if he could. But like I said, financial peace and the Total Money Makeover book, Britt and I read the year right after she graduated college, and that changed our lives. It changed the trajectory of our lives. So I got nothing but great things to say about that stuff. So I'm guessing this would be an endorsement for going to one of these, even though Dave, by the way, Dave, you can send a compensatory check to P.O. Box 203, Carroll, Ohio 43112 for all this free advertising on our massive channel that dwarfs the Ramsey Empire, of course. But that all being said, I'm guessing you would do this again or other entree things here.
Yeah,
moving forward.
100%. Yeah. I sent a message to Anthony and just said, man, thank you for sending me. Next time you and I need to come together. It's just something about even post-processing, now, I know I'm missing tons. It's just man, it'd be nice to be sitting side by side and swap, notes or hey, we need to, institute that. So they do have the Master Series, and it actually plans to be in Frisco, Texas next year. So
cool.
Down in beautiful, I think it's a PGA Tour golf course down there. And then they have a EntreLeadership Summit that is a 3-day event, and that is in Denver, Colorado. So all of that's at RamseySolutions.com. So
man, there we go.
But one thing I say
yeah.
on that, back to that feeling thing is I was reminded of I'm a big Dave Ramsey and John Maxwell fan, as you'll find out. But John Maxwell said in that 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth was, growth is hard, and hard is not always bad. And so a lot of times when I'm like, man, this is so hard, it's just yeah. And then I back up, I'm like, you know what? Where's my desired outcome? What's the trajectory on this? It's okay. In this case, it's not bad. It's going to be hard, but does not mean. I think a lot of times I equate hard to bad. It's really hard. I want to do it, but sometimes it's the necessary thing. But
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's somebody mentioned this about a podcast I was listening to. They were talking about I think it was maybe even Jordan Peterson, who's obviously a personal hero of mine, if you're not familiar with that. But he was talking about, I think about a dude who'd gone through Navy SEALs training or something like that. And he said, or he asked him, what's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life ever? He's like, oh, it had been Navy SEAL training and qualifying or whatever it was. And he's like, why is that? Well, it's so hard.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most meaningful things he's done in his life ever was the hardest thing he'd ever done in his life.
Yeah.
And there's so much to that of me going broke and being completely broke and crashing my first company. One of the hardest things I've ever been through. The best thing for me and the most meaningful thing for me. Right. So I think what you're saying, that's a great point to just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. And actually really, depending on, it's all on how you treat it. Right. I mean, it can be any hardship. You can let it crush you and define you, for the worse, or you can let it build you up and let it define you in that way. Yeah. Dude, that sounds like an awesome event. And I'm glad you got the chance to go to that. And I never mind plugging Ramsey stuff for free because it is such a net beneficial thing, net gain for everyone. The more people get involved and online with these principles. One thing I do want to ask last second, you mentioned, I think Anthony going with you. The challenge with these events, and even when people come to Hardscape Mastery, I'll plug our own event here coming up. One or Entrepreneur Academy Live, or the Element Mastermind events, whatever, like you leave wanting to set the world on fire, but really the reality is you can only go home and implement 2 or 3 things in a business. How did you select what you're going to, or maybe you are making that fatal mistake of trying to implement 20 things and everybody's not on the same fire as you are. How did you select or whatever what you decided you were going to focus on with coming home with all this information and motivation?
Yeah. So they were pretty clear up front at the beginning that there was, at the back of the book, there was three action plans. And they did not want, I mean, they were very clear. They're like, do not go home and say, you know, have this
uproot everything.
Yeah. So I have it's a 3-step action plan. The other thing they said is like, don't make decisions from Ramsey headquarters and send messages to your team. Wait till you get home and do it in person. He said the guy that did the firing said, I kid you not, one guy fired one of his team members via email because he heard this really inspiring talk from me. He's like, don't do that. Like that's anyway, I'm just like,
oh my word. Yeah.
Imagine, but my 3
it's
was
easy to get caught up in the moment. Yeah, no doubt. I understand that stuff. When I go to LAL or launch or the Element Masterminds, like I want to just uproot the whole company sometimes. I just go home and like start from scratch again. You know what I mean? So I get that. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So my 3 were those, start with the disc profiles, draft, revise, and publish KRAs for each team member, and then implement the weekly reports and accountability program. So those are the 3 things, and I have timestamps on each one that I want to have done by, and each of the team members. So Anthony and Josh and Russ, who are on our leadership team, they are holding me accountable on getting those done by the dates that I've selected. So
cool.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Another one you'll have fun with your team is the along with the disc profile is the Enneagram. If you've ever done that with your team, we did that with our guys last spring, and it's because I think that's the color chart. Everybody's like a red or a blue or a green or whatever, and that's a fun one because you learn I mean it hits pretty square. And we had a couple guys that were reds, and it was like, okay, now we know we see what you're driven by or motivated by. The Enneagram is a fun one, so maybe add that to your list too for a fun outing. Jadon, thank you for doing this and reporting to us here of your experience there. It was this was good stuff.
Yeah, my pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and it's a treat to be able to share it. And yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. Jadon, that being said, man, thank you again. Be sure to check out Solid Grounds there, Arbor Care there, and Jadon Wise on Instagram. All 3 Instagrams there, and order some coffee too while you're at it. Dude, I appreciate it again so much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Caleb.
Absolutely. Folks, from beautiful Fairfield County, not separated by rivers or mountain ranges, we wish you the best, and go after it. Figure out what you're going to do, and just because it hurts doesn't mean it's bad for you. We'll catch you on the next one, folks. We'll see you.